Yeah, we ball things off with cricket on this edition of the SportsMax Zone. West Indies suffered a first loss to Bangladesh in any format of the women's game, going down by 60 runs to the visitors in the second one-day international in Basseterre, St Kitts and Nevis on Tuesday evening. Captain Nigar Sultana Jati top scored with 68 to push Bangladesh to what seemed like an under par 184 in 48.5 overs. Trinbagonian spinner Karishma Ramarak was the most successful bowler with career best figures of 4 for 33, while medium pacer Alia Elaine claimed 3 for 24. In reply, the West Indies lost openers Hayley Matthews for 16 and Kiana Joseph for 8. They were 39 for 2 when Matthews fell and then quickly slipped to 72 for 7 before eventually being dismissed for 124 in 35 overs. The result has left Bangladesh needing only to avoid defeat in the third one-day international to secure direct qualification to this summer's World Cup, which will drag New Zealand to the qualifying tournament along with the West Indies. And you can see there, based on that graphic at this stage, New Zealand and Bangladesh both on 21 points. So once Bangladesh avoid defeat on Friday, which means that even if there is a no result in the contest, they will advance automatically to the World Cup, and then Bangladesh, or make that New Zealand, along with the West Indies, will have to play the qualifying tournament. Now, Karishma Ramarak has acknowledged that the prospect of facing the Kiwis in the qualifiers will play a role in how they approach the final game of the series.
I think, looking into qualifiers, we really want to know who we want to play against in the qualifiers, and obviously Bangladesh has a shot at that. So we're going to come harder next game so that, I guess it's a bit easier for us then.
And despite the victory that places her team on the cusp of World Cup qualification, the Bangladesh skipper Sultana Jati says that they are focused on the possibility of accomplishing more history in this series. She says, of course, the 2 points are priceless, but we really also want to achieve a series win by winning the next game. We haven't won an overseas series before. Now, cricket commentator Nikhil Uttamchandani joins us via Zoom. Nikhil, welcome again to the SportsMax Zone. As usual, it's a pleasure to have you. Let's get right down to business. How disappointed are you with the result last night, but even beyond that, the performance by the West Indies women?
Ricardo, I think shocked would be a word that I would use to describe what I was when I woke up this morning. Because of the time difference of where I am in the world, it was tough to watch the entirety of the game. So I watched the first innings, and when they dismissed Bangladesh for 184, I went to sleep smiling. I thought easily, less runs in the first ODI, and I thought, they would use home conditions, use the advantage, and chase the runs easily. I was shocked to see 124 all out, and I think it speaks to where the West Indies are ranked in the table. And there's a reason that teams like Bangladesh are ranked ahead of them. And I don't want to take anything away from them, because as bad as the West Indian batting was, the Bangladesh bowling, I got the chance to watch over the innings today. It was outstanding. Firstly started by Marufa the seamer. She bowled 2 4-over spells, and her control of length, even the balls that went to the boundary, she hit a good length almost every single ball. It was great to watch. And I think you look at Bangladesh teams, cricket teams across the board, under 19, men's, women's, they always have that fight. And to see the celebrations and how much it meant to them, it was special.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Bangladesh, Nikhil, but there has to be something said about the consistent inability of the West Indies women. And I guess this is not just the West Indies women, it's the West Indies men, it's the youth teams, it's pretty much every West Indies team, but their inability to bat 50 overs consistently, to be chasing 185 and be dismissed in 35 overs is almost unforgivable.
Agreed, and I think the shot selection, especially from some of the senior players, must be questioned. When I reflected on the shots that Glasgow played, and I understand she's very young in her career, so this will be a learning. But even when she was dismissed, Shemaine Campbell trying to take on the spinner next over, a new batter has just come to the crease, you're set on 28. it was quite disappointing, especially when you're only chasing 3 runs and over, and there's no scoreboard pressure. But I've done a lot of thinking today as to what's the problem, how we can move forward. I think what it comes down to, watching them last night, the build-up of dot balls and the continuous pressure being applied when you're unable to score, where bowlers are able to get into a plan, bowl a lot of deliveries at one batter. I think that in all cricket puts immense pressure on a batter, and in the end it works to the West Indian demise. So I think that probably is the biggest area, and it has to start across the board. Our under-19 team, I mean, the game against Sri Lanka was disappointing, and I think right from the bottom up, regionally, youth, the senior women, and as you said, the senior men, it must change. Systemically, we have to do something about it.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get to the under-19s because I was looking forward to see if there were any future batting talents in that setup, and well, on the evidence of what we've seen so far, I think we can arrive at an early conclusion, but I'm not going to put you on the spot and go back there,
Give
Nikhil.
them time, Ricardo. Give them time, please.
Well, my friend,
how are you so pessimistic when it comes to... They're so pessimistic. Just maybe we'll unearth some crazy talent. Nobody would have seen Hayley Matthews coming, and she emerged. So, it's the second under-19 World Cup. Give them time.
Yeah, well, Nikhil, for me, it's not pessimistic. I just think that there is lack of a system, and where you are lacking a proper system, you are unlikely to produce great talent. If you think about it, and again, this is probably going to sound harsh, but the West Indies women have produced, okay, I'm going to say 3 high-quality batters. I almost said 2. 3 high-quality batters in my lifetime. So, excuse me if I'm not too excited seeing my under-19s get bowled out for 44 and 85 while my senior women continue to struggle to score runs against a team that, if we had tiers, would be in tier 2 of world cricket.
I'm going to say, let's be patient. I hope the Under-19 World Cup will inspire a new generation of young talent to come through. And also, let's not forget, the women's CPL has only been around for 3 years. I'm hoping that as well encourages more young girls, young women to play the sport.
I still think that we're some way away. I was hoping that maybe Mariah would take up the sport and help us out in the batting department, Mariah.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that ship sailed, Nikhil. Luckily, I have my sister there getting the job done with the ball. And, Nikhil, that brings me to my question, right, with regards to the bowlers. And I find this happening from time to time where, and I'm not only speaking about Karishma getting career best yesterday, I'm talking about the other bowlers who time after time, they take up the responsibility, and I think they do a fairly good job. Yet, most times that job goes in vain because it's as if, they make it so difficult on the bowlers, the batters, by not, being able to chase down sometimes really low totals.
Mariah, I think it's obviously a glaring issue, and I want to give Karishma Ramarat credit. I think the way she's bowled in the last 2 years across formats, she's easily elevated herself into a top bracket in terms of finger spinners around the world in the game. The way she's bowled at the T20 World Cup, she's gone to adverse conditions where people didn't think she would feature in the past, in previous series, and done well. And then in the Caribbean, of course, where we expect her to do well, she leads from the front. I do think there has to be something that we do different. If we continue to do the same thing, it's insanity, as we always say. There has to be some system, as Ricardo is saying, something we do differently when it comes to our batting. I don't know if we can have... I know that the men have had a batting clinic and a spin bowling clinic. I know that there is now an academy for the younger women, which I think will make a difference. And maybe we need to be patient. But I think when we go into those setups and those training facilities, how can we then employ strategies and tactics to help our batting improve? Let's look at it in isolation, and let's really get to the nitty-gritty, the details, the individuals themselves, and figure out how can we become a better batting group altogether.
Yeah, and sometimes, Nikhil, it worries me because earlier today I was looking at the stats, right? We played 23 matches when it comes to this championship cycle. We won only 7 of them, and of course we lost 14. And then I think back to myself, the manner in which we lost those matches. Yesterday, though, I have to say a lot of the catches were brilliant. The work in the outfield. top stuff from the ladies, and I give them credit for that, because some of these losses, these 14 losses, I think I would also credit to, you know, just laziness on the field, where some of the fielders wouldn't, you know, put the effort that I would have seen from other teams. So when I look at these losses, you know, it really bothers me.
Yeah, I can tell, Maria, and it bothers me as well. But what I would say, look, it's hard. I don't know. I don't have the answers, and if I did, I would share it, and hopefully we would become better. I think what I would say, let's be patient, but the batting has to improve. I think the bowling has gotten to a level now where, you know, it can fend and fight against the best teams in the world. I would say they are missing Chanel Henry, who's injured, and I think that's a big loss. We saw her 61 in that third ODI in India.
Yeah.
But again, I want some young batters, Zeta James, Janelia Glasgow. I want someone to really step up and try for the next 12 months to become, you know, a consistent figure in this team. I thought Rashada Williams a couple of years ago would have been that person, and then she hasn't really produced the results. So I'm challenging young West Indian women across the region. A place is up for grabs in that West Indies batting order.
A few places, actually, just to ensure that they know it's not only one place, it's a lot of places. Nikhil, now the ODI qualification, you know, that World Cup, how big of an embarrassment will it be if West Indies does not qualify for the ODI World Cup?
A huge embarrassment, similar to the embarrassment that the men faced a few years ago when they went to Zimbabwe. I wouldn't even want to start thinking about that line, because I expect a Pakistan team that the West Indies beat 3-0, an Ireland team that they also beat in home conditions, even though they've got some quality batters as well, Pendergrass, etc. But I think this game is really important, because you don't want to play New Zealand in that tournament. New Zealand are a World Cup winning team. They've had injuries. Players have gone in and out. You don't want to face the likes of Amelia Kerr and Sophie Devine, etc. So they need to win this game.
Yeah, when you look at well, we heard Karishma at the end of the match suggest that they are inspired for the final game to beat Bangladesh, which would make New Zealand automatic qualifiers and not to worry too much about them having to face them in the World Cup qualifying. How significant do you think those words were coming from Ramarak?
I like it. I like that she's direct, you know, and sending a message to her team. And let's be real, New Zealand won the World Cup. I know the West Indies got to the semi-finals and people will say it's a different format. But to win a World Cup, you have to have quality in your side. You're facing the best teams in the world. You're beating the best teams in the world. And that similar personnel will be playing and representing New Zealand in the 50-over format. So you don't want to play them. They've got a lot more experience than the West Indies. And, I mean, even Bangladesh, as we see, are posing a threat. But I like that Ramarat is sending a message to her team. And in other words, she's saying we need to be better because this next game is a really important one.
Yeah, and we're looking at the batting lineup and the batting order that the West Indies uses. And we had a brief discussion this morning in our zone department about, like, Zeta James and how much is she being looked at as a genuine all-rounder. And if she's batting too low in this lineup. Any thoughts on that, Nikhil?
I would agree with that, Lance. I think she went up a few places in the India series, and she's shown us like the small glimpses that she's got the quality, especially against the spin. It's hard for her when they're 6 down, 7 down to really come in and make an impact. So I would fully support her going up the order. And I think Chanel Henry, I know that the usage of her has been interesting. There's been times we're questioning if she's injured, if she's fully fit. But I think she is one, similar to Kiana Joseph, who the West Indies need to really invest in the next 2 or 3 years, because I think the two of them have the raw materials to be superstars. But on James, I would definitely support her going up the order to 4, to 5, to 6, just to bat more balls and spend some time at the crease with the senior players as well, with a Shemaine Campbell, a Hayley Matthews. I think that is underrated in the experience you get from out in the middle. Yeah,
and Coach Shane Dietz has been on record as suggesting that he sees some of the quality to work with in the players coming through. And there's a question too about Shabika Ghaznavi, if she's being given enough of an opportunity to place herself on the front line and show what she can do.
I think Shane Dietz deserves some time, Lance, because he got to the World Cup semi-finals. He's done revolutionary things with this white ball team, not necessarily in the ODI format. But, for example, Mandy Mangru, who didn't play for a CPL team, you know, he's really invested in. She's been in the squad for the last 3 series or so. So I want to give him time. I want to give him time to really implement and initiate his plans, his tactics, his thinking. And let's judge the West Indies in 6 to 12 months. Let's see how they go at the qualifiers, which will be a high-pressure event, and what improvement can be made between now and that event. That's what I'll be keeping a close eye on.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, the West Indies women came through this qualifying tournament twice before, 2003, I think, and 2011. So hopefully they can do it for a third time. Nikhil, I'm not sure if
you
you
always know your stats, Ricardo. Did you know that, or someone fed that to you in your ear? Because don't fool the people.
I knew that, man. Calm down. But listen, what I don't know, and maybe you can help me with that, is that I don't know if it is that my research skills have been diminished, but I can't find anywhere where the qualifying tournament will be and when exactly the qualifying tournament will be. So I'm not sure if you can help us out, or it is that the ICC is being the ICC and everything will come down to last minute.
I think the ICC are well on top of things when it comes to the planning. I think the event is supposed to be in the next couple of months, and I believe the teams have been communicated about the location. But at this time, I won't be able to disclose any info about that, Ricardo.
I think everything I've seen so far says to be confirmed, which suggests that for the general public...
But I feel like Nikhil knows the way he answered us.
I'm not sure.
I'm going to do some further digging, and then by the third ODI, I'm going to have an answer for you guys after the third ODI.
Okay.
Is there any other global institution, global sporting body, where you are months away from a major tournament and the world does not know where it is going to be and what the exact dates are? That is unbelievable to me. But don't worry, Nikhil, you don't have to answer. We're out of time. We have to go to a break. We'll talk more about this, I'm sure.